Hey guys, welcome. I'm Ken too, and today I have a pretty cool video, at least I think so, that I've been waiting to do. And it's a little bit of an oddity because I'm recording the intro at the end of the video. I have already made the tumbler, I already know it works. Usually when I make a video, you get to watch me tell you what I hope to happen, and then you get to watch me fail as I go until I get it right. And I still do that, so you get to see different versions of this build. But yeah, I'll tell you in the end, it works. So in this video, you can expect to see some. I'm going to go through a couple different experiments. So if you are watching this and you're thinking of doing your own DIY, maybe it'll give you a couple other ideas of what you can do to build your own tumbler. And then show you what actually works. So if you just want to get it right on the first try, you can do that. And then I also go into kind of the price breakdown, because one of the major considerations I had when I was thinking about building my own tumbler is the cost of the things. I mean, they don't seem that expensive, but once you start putting all the parts together and the prices of those parts, they can get pretty pricey pretty quick. So I go into the price breakdown of what most of maybe a version that's more cost efficient for you. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Alright, so these are the dimensions for the end piece. And for the ends, what I've done, the overall length is 11 7/8 inches. I came down 1.5 inches and I drew a line across. Came down 2 inches and drew another line across, because if you look at the end of the Harbor Freight model, driven pulley, let me square this up so you can get a better look at it. The driven pulley is this one here, and it sits just a little bit lower than the resting pulley, or the resting shaft. I just put that back into the design here. So I offset it 1/2 inch. I don't know if that's critical or not, but I figure it put more weight on the non-powered shaft, so it'd get a little more friction and possibly spin them a little more. And then to center these holes up, I started at 1.5 inches from this side. They are spaced 2.5 inches on center. These end holes here are spaced 2.5 inches apart on center. So I did 2.5 inches on center. And then I went 4 inches in between, because the pulleys are going to sit about that far apart now. When the whole thing's said and done, they're going to be about yay far apart. And then another 2.5 inches from there to there on center. So I just measured from the one end all the way to the other, sticking to the guidelines I'd already drawn. And then when I drilled the holes, I used a 7/8 inch paddle bit, and it did just fine. Now this whole thing is designed for these roller skate bearings is what they are. I'll put the, hopefully I'm having the graphic for the specific type. I think it's an RF something 8 bearing. But they fit right inside there with a 7/8 inch paddle bit. And then the shafts is going to sit right inside there. Here it is all together. This spacer ended up being 9 3/4, the space in between. As you can see, wrong side. This side is the dimensions on it. And then this is the side that the motor is going to go on, because the shafts will extend through, but like I just pointed out, that's not centered yet. They can still slide through all the way yet. And I'm glad I didn't go any deeper. I totally didn't even think about the knob sticking out, so my design ended up working. The motor, I've just upcycled the back end of the Harbor Freight tumbler, and I was wondering what to do to build all the mount and everything else, and I realized I didn't have to. I could just cut it apart, and it already has a couple of screws for me to mount to, and now it's just a matter of getting it to sit here above the pulleys. Okay, so I did mount the motor, but before we get to that, something I did here that I had said before that I was going to block the back side of that, and I realized I got these collar shafts that I purchased for just this sort of thing, and I put those on there to keep the shaft from going in and out. Alright, belt's cooled and it's able to spin here. Spin both rollers here. I don't know. Yep, see it pretty good on the camera despite the poor focus.
Now I plugged it in, so let's see if we can get the rollers to spin. Beautiful. Oh, got a little bit of a... You can see that shaft is moving out of wonk pretty good. Okay. Hey. Third barrel test. Let's get this. Oops. Catastrophic fail. Alright. 3 barrels, turning well. Getting a little bit of noise on the other side again. Let's shoot for barrel number 4. Okay, so it did spin with the 4th barrel on it, but what's happening is I didn't leave enough space here for the knobs, so I'm just going to have to hit that slot again real quick, give it a little extra room, but it did spin. One motor did spin both shafts. If there's any kind of a hang-up, they'll try to jump off the rollers, so I guess if you do your own unit, don't space them up a little bit, leave them flat. Okay, one more time. This is my 3rd time trying to get these dimensions right. Last time I wrote that number wrong. But so I came down 1 inch, 1 1/4 inches from the top. The reason I did that is the barrels have that little screw on them. The screw here. So this distance, if you get it too small, that screw will hit. So 1 1/4. Or 1 1/4 inch is what I did. Then I came in from the end. Actually, I found the center and I marked out from there. But if you want to do the quick and dirty, measuring from one end, it's 1 9/16 inches. And then a 2.5 inch on center, because that's what the Harbor Freight tumblers are between their shafts. 2.5 inch on center. I left a 4 inch gap in between so the pulleys won't run into each other. And then another 2.5 inch for the second set of tumblers. Or shafts, excuse me. And then I'm redoing this one because obviously I screwed up. I don't need a second set of these. Yeah, so I countersank the center one. I use a 7/8 inch bit to drill the holes because these bearings are 9 millimeters and a 7/8 inch bit takes enough wood off that the 9 millimeter bearing fits right in there just perfect. Yeah, this was the original piece. When I put it all together, the bearing fits in here, it countersinks a little bit, and then I have a collar shaft to keep the shaft from sliding too far down in, or sliding past, because the pulley is going to be sticking out the other side, as you'll be seeing here in a minute. And then I just drilled an extra hole through there to allow the 8 millimeter shaft to fit through there. So I have to redo that on this side, because this side is now going to be the motor end, and then this one I am going to re-drill these holes all at 7/8 of an inch and the depth of the bearing, which is, I believe, right around 1/4 inch or something like that. Okay, in my first build of this thing, I had originally thought I would just glue the bearings into the wood, but then I realized that's probably a silly idea, especially when I have some thin gauge sheet metal laying around and a couple of screws left over from a project future past. So I'm just gonna pop some sheet metal over these to hold them in place. I drilled it out so they would allow for the shaft to fit through. I only need 2 over here. Okay, here it is before I mount the motor. Got it all together. Got the bearings blocked in. The shafts spin well. The only problem, but it's not specific, the shaft is bent. I get a little bit of wobble in that pulley, so we'll decrease its efficiency a little bit, but yeah, I'm just going to run with it for now, and if it turns into an issue, then I can always just shut it down, shorten the belt, and just run this one. Alright, here we are at Frankenstein Tumbler 2.0. I finally decided to officially name it, but Frankenstein is a little long and hard to spell, so I just abbreviated it. I hope that's okay. It runs. Right now it's pulling up on the shaft, and it's causing a little rubbing. As soon as I put some weight on it. Quit looking through the camera. There we go. Obviously the sound goes away because it's beginning to push down and it's resting on the bearing like it should. And then I can get a second barrel on here. Curiously enough, this barrel will eventually walk over to the end, which is why I've already put the shower door roller on there as a stop. And, okay, let's speed this up a little bit. And you can see it runs just fine. Everything's going good. I guess 2 barrels. The second I add a 3rd barrel to the system though, the whole thing shuts down. So, get it back up to speed here. There we go. And so I can run 2 barrels on it again, but obviously I'm using 2 tumblers worth of parts, so, well, 1.5 I guess you could say, because I'm using only 1 motor. But, yeah, so, not that great. Okay, if you can hear me over the noise of the tumblers, here's the time for the reveal video. So here's the lower tone, 33B, that I bought used from a guy who was getting out of the rock tumbling thing. And obviously it's floor tone, runs like a champ. Then you got my 3rd unit of Harbor Freight tumblers, and it is running, this thing is running great. All I've done is lubricate the bearings, the bushings, excuse me, and it's been running 7 weeks on the very first belt. The other 2 units, the belts broke within 24 hours, one of them within 12. So to have this first belt running 7 weeks, I would say it's pretty much as efficient as a lower tone. Now to the star of the show. Build your own tumbler. Frankenstein 3.0. You can hear Gene Wilder saying, "It's alive!" It is a mashup of, well, let me shut the noise off here. I will say there is one thing a Harbor Freight has over the lower tone. Right here. Oh, I could just shut it off. Now I gotta unplug the lower tone. Shut that thing off. Okay, now that you can hear me. There's a couple of design things I've done here, and I'll get into those in a minute. But for this moment, I just want to kind of get into unit number 4 that I just bought tonight. And if you're liking this video, would you go ahead and hit the like button for me? And then just lets me know I put a lot of work into making this thing. I've got 3 different versions, and hitting that like button just lets me know you guys appreciate the work I've been putting in and videoing for you. But alright, so if you want to get back to the build, just skip to the timestamp I'm putting somewhere on the screen here. But I just wanted to explain real quick why I keep going back to these Harbor Freights and why I just bought a 4th unit. It's the second one I've purchased, and the first one I bought because it was cheap. It got me into rock tumbling. The second one was given to me. The third also given to me a little bit. And then the 4th one, this one intentionally today I put a lot of thought into going and getting, especially knowing that I'm building my own tumbler and that tomorrow, starting, well, in 2 days, my dad and I are going to be assembling a final homemade, the end-all be-all of my tumblers. And it was just like, kind of, do I really need another tumbler from Harbor Freight? And I had a 25% off coupon. And if it wasn't for the 25% coupon, it's not worth buying. Just to go in and run and buy one, unless you're absolutely desperate to start rock tumbling. They're great starter rock tumbler. If you're just looking to tumble a couple of hobby batches, they're great. If you're trying to run them 24/7 for years on end, you're probably better off going with a higher quality brand. But I just wanted to do a quick price breakdown because I really had thought about what to do to. Is it worth spending $50 to buy this tumbler? If you've ever priced out drums or any parts for tumblers, then you know the drums, for a pair of drums, it's going to be a minimum $40. I've never found them cheaper than $20 a piece, and the highest, well, they're usually about $25, so about $50 for 2 drums. With a 25% off coupon, I walked out the door with $52 with tax. So I just basically bought 2 drums. And with it came all the parts needed to run another tumbler, so if I wanted to make another Frankenstein, I could totally do that. Or if I wanted to, actually what I'm trying to do, as I'm kind of giving away a teaser for the later part of this video, is I'm actually set that up to be chained into the system my dad and I will be building later this week. So the parts will be used later on, even if the tumbler turns out to be garbage like the first one. It's just going to be parts anyway. If it turns out to be a great one like this 3rd one I've got, I'm just going to let it run as it is and just until the bearings need replaced and the bushings wear out pretty quick. So far I haven't had them last more than 6 months, but I run them 24/7. So having them let them run 24/7 for 6 months and they last, that's pretty darn good in my opinion. But
Anyway, just a quick price breakdown. And all these prices come from the tumblersbench.com, and it's a great place to get all your parts, everything you need for the Chicago Electric. You can buy individual parts. You can buy if the bushings wear out, you can get them there. Replacement pulleys, like if you look at my Frankenstein, the pulley on the motor, the fan blades have been broken off. You can find that replacement part on the tumblersbench.com. Now I went through and I priced out everything that I just put into Frankenstein. The only thing you can't buy on the tumblersbench.com is the actual frame for the Harbor Freight tumbler. That's the only thing I haven't seen available. To buy all the parts that just went into one unit, it would be $130 off of the Tumbler's Bench. So that includes the motor, the pulleys, the bracket, the motor bracket, the kit, motor bracket kit, drive pulley, power cord, and the shaft. That totals up to $130. Even if you remove the barrels, that's still going to be $80 in just the parts alone. And I just paid $52 for the whole thing at Harbor Freight. Yeah, it's definitely a discount to get it that way, especially with the 20, like I said, the coupon. But I also compared it to the system my dad and I are building, because, it's like, yeah, that might be the cheaper way to go to do the homemade thing. So I got to thinking about it. For me to add one more tier to my dad and I's build that we have going on, I'm gonna have to buy new pillow blocks, shafts, pulleys, belt, and motor. Well, not belt and motor. I'm just talking if you're building one at home. So the pillow blocks plus the shafts alone, that's $66. I paid $52 for this. If I need to buy a belt, that's going to be about another $15 for the cheap ones. Obviously, you want a higher quality belt, you're going to be paying more. And the motor, the minimum I've ever been able to find a motor that was capable of turning a tumbler for 24/7 would be $60. The best one's probably more like $160, $180. Which, okay, so that's not, but the price of those parts is offset by the fact that that system is designed to hold 5 barrels. Maybe 6 if you can get it squeezed in there. So it's quite the trade-off of 5 barrels versus a 2-barrel system. So then it raises the question, what are the costs of the barrels? Well, obviously, if you want to buy 6 barrels straight off the internet, you're going to be paying, $20 a piece minimum. So that's $120 right off the bat. Throw in the $66 of other parts, and that's not including if you need to buy the motor and it adds up pretty quick. And then I saw some homemade PVC stuff that I thought would be kind of neat to do myself. And even that gets pretty pricey pretty quick. A 10-foot piece of 4-inch PVC is $30. And then the end caps, depending on the type of caps you get and the test caps, etc., they're going to run you about $20 for a 4-inch PVC pipe from what I've been able to price. I haven't looked extensively and everywhere, but that's usually about what they run. So by the time you throw the pipe in, and even if you want to make 2 barrels out of that, call it double barrels out of that, you're still going to be at least 4 fittings. And that's going to be $80 plus the $30 for the PVC pipe. You're talking $110 in the barrels alone to cover the space of that. So, yeah, you can get a discount over, buying the drums, and you're going to get more used space on the shaft. But you're still looking at the parts plus the PVC pipe. That's still going to be $176. So, yeah, so there's definitely a trade-off. And that's why I went ahead and bought the new tumblers, not because it's great or anything, but not because I swear by these Harbor Freight. No, by no means. And I'm not getting paid to sponsor them. There's no reason for me to. It's just the cheapest way to get the parts, period. There's just no way around it. So if you're if you're a little DIYer or you like to do things, homemade projects, you're looking to make your own tumbler, and you're willing to wait a while to get the parts, just keep waiting. Keep waiting for those 25% off coupons and just snag one. I got a coupon last November. I got another one in June this year, so about 6 months apart, a little over. Every 6 months, you get a couple more barrels, you get a couple of tumbler parts. If you wait long enough, you can get them pretty cheap. But anyway, thanks for listening. I hope this helped. Let's get back to the actual video.
Okay, so what I've done, if you can hear me over the road noise, sorry about that, nothing I can do about road noise, random noises in the middle of my videos. I set this up, ultimately, the two shafts, I set them up 3 inches apart. When I measured the lower tone, I realized I had a second brand of Tumbler. There was no reason for me not to double check. Lower tone set their shafts 3 feet apart, or 3 inches, yeah, 3 feet. 3 inches apart, and then they staggered the resting roller up 3/8 of an inch. Whereas the Harbor Freights, they were 2.5 inches apart, and the resting shaft was 5/8 above. So all I've done instead, I set mine to 3 inches apart, but all I did was I put a piece of 1/4 inch plywood under the resting shaft. So it's only 1/4 inch higher than the other unit, or than the other shaft. And it seems to be working great. I took my shower door roller and I just, I used a wooden block that I managed to cut without slicing my fingers off as a spacer, and just ran a long toggle bolt through it, and now it makes the guide for me. I prop up the end to make sure the barrels always roll that way with some shims. And then also, I mean, obviously I used the old motor, and like I said, the lighting's pretty crappy right at the moment, but you can see the fan blades have been broken off. So not the most ideal of situations there. The belting cord, you've heard me explain in other videos. I love this poly belting cord. This stuff's wonderful, and I can make it any length I want, which is exactly what I did for this project. Now this back shaft is bent. You can see as I spin it how it just wobbles. So I put it on the outside so that if nothing else, I could just shorten the belt and just run the one roller and just exclude that from the system. When it's running, you hear some ticking, and I believe it's all coming from that back shaft. So eventually I can eliminate that if I want, or replacement shafts are $11 on the tumblersbench.com. The motor, I set up the way I did on this one because, like I've said, later this week my dad and I are going to build the ultimate end-all be-all of the homemade tumblers that I'm going to have. And I wanted to set the motor up on the end because I have the intention of chaining this tumbler into that tumbler. So that motor will run just about anything. So if the shaft's set up, I can change the pulleys on the ends to fit belts, actual real belts, and then this should run these just like a champ. So I set this up to be able to change the motor, and surprisingly, this is running a-okay so far. One motor is turning 2 tumblers. I was a little worried that one motor wasn't going to be able to do that. It was just going to overload, overheat, and die. Now, obviously, I haven't run this for 24/7 for days and weeks and months, but so far the motor's doing okay, and I don't think I'm going to get to that point. Like I said, I'm planning on chaining it in, but at the same time, I'm also kind of curious to see how long that motor can run. It's already been in use for 6 months on a single shaft system. So it'll be interesting to see how long it'll run on a dual shaft. I hate to say that I'm going to run something until it breaks and then not use it anymore, but that's going to be the cost of science on this one. The pillow blocks, if you saw the Frankenstein 2.0, I tried to use some bearings that I'd already had, and it didn't work all that great. What I ended up doing is I went to, I jumped on Amazon, just because they're quick and easy, and I found a set of 10 pillow blocks, 8mm bore pillow blocks for, I think it was $15 or something ridiculously cheap. And these things have been running just fine. They're gimbal mounted, so if you're not perfectly centered or perfectly in line, they're not going to bind up or damage the shaft or whatever. So that was a great little feature. They got the little set screws on the end. So you can see the little set screws, so it holds the shafts in place. So far, they've been great. I got some mixed reviews on them when I read about them, and so far they've been wonderful for this system, and everything's been rolling well. As far as the actual height, I just mounted, like I said, I cut this, just the back end off the Harbor Freight tumbler to get the motor, just simply because it was easier than trying to take the motor off, take the switch off, take this plug out, yada, 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 all that jazz. I just cut the back end of it off and kept all the unit, and then I just put a couple of screws in, and it's right down to the, hold it right to the wood. Right now it's sitting on a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, just all the way through the system. Then I put a little then a 2x4 with a 1/2 inch piece of plywood on top of that to match the pulley to the motor height as much as I could. On the Harbor Freight motors systems, you'll see that the pulley is, this pulley, the resting pulley, is almost directly in line with the pulley, or with the motor, excuse me, the motor shaft. And I wanted to try to match that on this one to get it as close to original as possible. As you can see, I got the motor a little out of line, so that's just a matter of me just adjusting it. And then from the 1/2 inch, I just, like I said, I put the 1/4 inch spacer just to get the little resting shaft just a little bit higher than the drive shaft. And total space in between, the barrels are 9.5 inches. From here to here are 9.5 inches. So I just made sure the shaft doesn't stick all the way through the pulleys, which is a major, kind of, on my mind, kind of a downside. But it was the only way to leave enough room on the pulleys for the barrel to fit. As you can see, there's still not a whole lot of clearance, just enough. You don't need a lot, but just enough clearance. And then of course I use the shower door roller, as I've said. So if you've gotten a value out of this video, I think I've included all the shaft dimensions, but you can keep asking me in the descriptions below, comments, and just let me know if you have any more questions about the build of it. This is my own build, so you can ask all the questions. I'm happy to share anything. This is not copyrighted. I'm not a genius by any means. I'm not doing anything that's crazy complicated. I mean, I literally built this with a power drill and what could be a circular saw. I used a miter box and a drill press. Other than that, it could be built with the... But honestly, I could have done all of that with the circular saw and the power drill. So not a complicated system, not anything a little hobby home DIYer couldn't do. I mean, I did it. All I just ruler, everything you could use out of a tool belt, etc. So if you guys got anything out of this and you liked it, would you go ahead and hit that subscribe button too? And then next week, another reason to hit the subscribe button is very soon, like I said, my dad and I are going to be building another homemade tumbler. And if you want to see that one, if you like this one, you will definitely want to see that one, because that one is going to be a beast. It's going to be a lot of fun for that build. And then I'm going to have to spend all that money, like I said, figuring out how to put barrels on the system, because it's going to chew up a lot of them. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.